Hey, everybody. This is Nevin Gusak, Populist Patriot. Today, I'm going to give some updates on sanctions busting by the Russian Federation under Vladimir Putin and the United Russia Party. Much of these articles were from Business Insider. One by Phil Rosen, dated April 21st, 2022. Titled "A Growing Amount of Russian Oil is Being Sent Destination Unknown as Wary Buyers Try to Avoid Affiliation with the Sanctioned Nation." And to summarize the article, more and more of the Russian oil exports, despite sanctions, are marked, quote, "destination unknown," as the industry looks for ways to continue doing business with Moscow during its present conflict with Ukraine. So far in April of 2022, more than 11.1 million barrels have been loaded onto cargoes with unknown destinations, compared to nearly zero prior to the invasion, according to the Wall Street Journal, which cited data from tankertrackers.com. Analysts told the journal this practice signals that Russian oil is being unloaded onto larger ships at sea and mixed with that tanker's crude, obfuscating, meaning hiding, the export's origin. New grades of oil are on the market now called the Latvian blend and the Turkmenistani blend, containing significant amounts of Russian oil. Traders also told the journal. While the European Union is discussing a full embargo on Russian oil, it isn't directly sanctioned yet. And exports to EU member states rebounded this month after dipping in March. Meanwhile, Russian exports to Asia and the Mediterranean have increased in April. Bloomberg reported, though, Russia has had to send its tankers much further distances to reach buyers. Price-sensitive buyers from China and India have been snapping up discounted oil. The U.S., for its part, just notched its highest weekly export of oil products ever as it helps replace Russian oil supply. So there you go. It shows that Europe really needs to become more self-sufficient in energy, and it's time for Germany, for example, to rebuild those nuclear power plants, and for Europe to resource oil and natural gas from other countries, and also to extract their own deposits of natural gas, oil, and coal from wherever it's available, as well as utilize alternative energy. That's the only way you can truly, any nation, country can wean itself off the economic blackmail and dependency on energy imports from the Russian Federation. And we got some more articles here. Here's another one from Business Insider, dated April 17th, 2022, by Ryan Hogg. Europeans are still requesting millions of tons of gas from Russian state-backed giant Gazprom, the company said. Russian state-backed oil giant Gazprom continues to ship millions of tons of gas to Europe via Ukraine. Boy, Ukraine is really in a precarious position, because if Ukraine says, we're going to cut off that gas, that's going to even piss off even Russia more. Although my gut feeling says, you know what, Ukraine is under attack by Russia anyways, they might as well cut off the gas from Russia to Europe at this point. But then again, it pisses off Europe, because Europe is still dependent on Russian natural gas. Again, this is why free trade is wrong. Free trade, this whole notion of Frédéric Bastiat, the famed French free market globalist economist, and I think he was also a politician too as well. That's why Bastiat, when he said if goods cross borders, armies won't, he's so wrong. Because guess what? Europe's dependence on Russian energy imports hasn't dissuaded Russian aggression against Ukraine, against Georgia, and whatnot. It hasn't caused that. It hasn't caused Russia for not to interfere in elections in France on behalf of the Front National, or from supporting the AfD that sort of right-wing populist party with certain libertarian tendencies in Germany, or from the Russians being allied in support of a Die Linke, which is the successor party of the old East German Communist Party. Come on, Bastiat is bullshit. And I wish conservatives would just throw that crap in the garbage. The Thatcherites and all of that. The Republicans and the British conservatives, they need to throw that crap in the garbage can, and they need to adopt economic nationalism. If goods don't cross borders, armies will. Bullshit. And these articles prove it. Can't be dependent on your enemies. I mean, hell, France during much of the mid to late 1930s accumulated massive trade deficits with Germany. That didn't prevent Germany from invading and subverting France in the late 1930s, and in 1939, 1940 from prosecuting a war against the Third Republic of France. Come on. Libertarianism economics is such idiocy, especially when it comes to foreign trade. In the statement, Gazprom announced that requests for gas stood at 57 million cubic meters for April 17th, which was down from the prior week, but it's still quite a bit. And Naftogaz is the Ukrainian state gas company, channeled that gas to Russia. So again, or rather to Europe, to the European Union membership. So I went over that before. It's totally wrong. Europe needs to become once again self-sufficient in gas, and self-sufficient in energy. Bottom line, I mean, it's a no-brainer here. April 17th, 2022, Ben Wink, article in Business Insider, decades of leaning on Russia forces Germany into a perilous decision, continue to buy Russian oil or risk economic catastrophe. I mean, there you go. Germany faces escalating pressure to wean itself off of Russian energy, but decades of economic and political decisions make a fast decoupling practically impossible. There you go. Over the past decades, our dependence on oil, coal, and gas from Russia has been increasing, Chancellor Olaf Scholz said in a March 23rd speech to Germany's lower house of parliament. We will end this dependence as quickly as possible. And that's a good statement. It's a statement in the right direction. But unfortunately, Germany is still heavily reliant on Russian energy, particularly the natural gas that's shipped directly from Russia through the Nord Stream pipeline network. Removing Russian gas from the German economy would immediately slam its manufacturing industry, sharply lift prices for basic commodities, and likely force the country into rationing schemes as the government scrambles to find new suppliers. And I realize this is going to take time. It's going to take time for Germany to become self-sufficient, but they need to invest heavy resources with the help of the United States and other allies to create alternative energy sources, to once again rebuild rebuild the nuclear power stations, and to source other foreign supplies as a short-term measure of gas and oil, so Germany's economy doesn't completely collapse. So why am I reading parts of these articles and talking about it? Simply to say that the folly of economic interdependence is right before us for all eyes to see. Case in point, the dependence of Germany and other EU member states on imports of Russian energy. Russia continues to subvert EU and NATO members through political subversion. Russia continues to pose a colossal military threat to NATO members, and that threat isn't going away. And Russia has committed aggression, whether we like aspects of what goes on in Ukraine or Georgia. The fact of the matter is they're continuing to do that. They are an aggressive power. So that concludes this episode of The Populist Patriot, with more to come this evening.